Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event. Fight fans worldwide, you've tuned into the number one undisputed boxing podcast today. This is the Boxing Breakdown. Now, your heavy-handed, hard-hitting host, Mark Roxy.
What's up, and welcome to another edition of the Boxing Breakdown. I am Mark Roxy with my partner in crime and co-host, Mr. Harold Hunt. What's up, Harold?
What's up, man? How you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. I'm really good. I'm excited to chop up some boxing news. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, and we just finished. Before we came on the air, we were just chopping up some of the things we wanted to talk about tonight, and we are going to talk a little bit about Rollie Romeo versus Barbaros and the results, as well as the stoppage. And we want to know whether you guys think the stoppage was premature or on point, or what the story is. And then we're going to get a little more in depth in the Devin, Haney, and Loma May 20th event that's coming up. And you notice, I always have a problem putting Devin Haney and then Lomachenko or Loma. So I figured I'd call them both by their first name, Devin and Loma. Did you notice that?
That works nicely.
Yeah. And then we're going to get into a little bit of discussion on Teofimo Lopez's upcoming fight on June 10th with Josh Taylor. And we'll close it out with the WBC loves Tank Davis. Okay, we're gonna chop in
WBA.
I'm sorry, WBA. Sorry, yeah. Yeah, one of the alphabets. But yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about what does that mean that they love Tank Davis. So I'm sure you have your own ideas out there as you're tuning in, but we're going to chop up that discussion. So without further ado, Harold, let's get into this discussion on the fight this past weekend with Rollie Romeo versus Barbaros and the outcome and the reactions of that fight.
Well, it was great from beginning to end, the press conferences, all of that. So yeah. I'm going to lay it out kind of easy and get everyone up to speed on it. Yeah. Barbaros and Rollie were to fight for the 140-pound title, of course.
Right.
Rollie's original, the champion, tested positive and he popped, so he couldn't fight. But now he's champion in recess. I believe it's Ramirez.
Right.
So the number one contender had the opportunity to fight Rollie for the belt. Now, the number one contender is a mature gentleman. He's 40 years old. Not only did he have to endure the press and the fans and everyone calling him old, they ridiculed his physical makeup, his face, his ears, his body, and saying he was grandpa, old man. So he had to endure all of the jokes from the press, from the media, from the fans, from everyone involved in it because of the way he looked. Now, his record was excellent. He's only lost 2 fights. He drew 3 and lost 2. He has 24 wins with 22 knockouts. The man can hit. He's been in a situation where he's been sitting at the number one forever.
Right.
And this is his opportunity. This is his chance. Now, that is what the scuttlebutt was before everything happened. And this man is from Venezuela. And I think about maybe 3 fights ago, this was reported by Paulie Malignaggi, who was at a fight that this gentleman that he was fighting at. During the weigh-in, the man was crying. And during the whole weigh-in, he was crying. He went through the whole thing. And reports are Paulie asked, "Why is the man crying?" And they said, "Well, in Venezuela, they kidnapped his wife and they killed her, but he had to do the fight." So
What?
they told him while he was doing the weigh-in, hours, minutes before or whatever. I don't know what the time frame was, but they kidnapped her and killed her. It's a guerrilla thing going on in Venezuela. So
What?
he had to fight through that, and he won the fight. So
Man.
this gentleman has a lot of wherewithal. Even if he looks old, if he even whatever, he can really fight.
Well,
So
yeah, I mean,
now we go to the fight. That was 3 fights ago, 3 or 4 fights ago that happened. But the point is, he went through that type of turmoil. So him hearing all this stuff about how old he was, that meant nothing to him. So if you want me to get into the actual fight, I can. But that is the scuttlebutt of the entire situation.
well, no, I mean, I just kind of, before we get in, yeah, I want to get deeper into this fight. And I definitely, but before we get into the fight, I just want to send my condolences to, he and his family that Ishmael Barrosa, I didn't realize that had happened. And, my heart goes out to him and his family. That's number one. They need to get their act together over there in Venezuela. This is ridiculous that would happen to him. And I'm sure he was next on the chopping block had he not come to the U.S. So, we know how this thing works, and it's just really, really a shame. I will also say that the kids in Venezuela, those boys can fight. Remember, Chocolatito is from Venezuela, right? I believe. Yeah, and there's lots of other amazing fighters that have come out of Venezuela. So, that's number one. And then number two is, as far as his looks, I mean, he looks like a legitimate Native American. I mean, he looks like a legitimate native, Taino blooded. He doesn't look old at all to me. I mean, I don't get that. I mean, I get that he's, about 40, but as far as looking at him in his face, he just looks worn. He looks like he's been through it. He's had, 24 fights, and out of the 24 fights, 22 of them have ended by way of KO. And he only lost 4 fights. 3 of them, he was stopped in 3 of those fights. And then there were 2, scrupulous, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but 2 draws on his record as well. And so he clearly knows his way around the ring. He's the WBA gold world super lightweight champion. So,
yes.
I mean, he's got an excellent pedigree. He knows how to fight. And he proved that. He legitimately proved that on Saturday night. So anyway, Harold, why don't you go on?
Okay, so as you know, Rollie was fighting him for the fight, right, for the title, and they started out. Rollie was moving around the ring a lot. Now, from what I gathered, Rollie was kind of gun shy.
Right.
He had been knocked out by Tank. He had been knocked out in sparring, and that went viral.
Right.
So he obviously was in a situation where he was kind of worried about about getting hit again. And truth be told, he got dropped in the second round. Now he got right up, but his worst fears were confirmed.
Yeah.
That he got hurt.
Yeah.
Now he attempted to kind of be forward and move forward and be the bully he was, but he's no longer that. That's another conversation. But he's no longer the bully because he is somewhat kind of worried about his posture in the ring. So as far as we could tell, the fight went on, and he started pushing and throwing his opponent down. Rollie did. Now the referee Tony Weeks, who I know personally, I talk to him from time to time over the years. He knows me. I know him. However you want to work it, he is a consummate professional. Now, Mark, we saw what happened. The first knockdown, he was thrown down in a sense. So you can let that one pass. The second one, in which the fight was stopped, I cannot blame Tony Weeks. And the reason I can't blame Tony Weeks, because in the position he was in, when Rollie pushed him, he couldn't see whether it was a punch or a push. Either one, the way Rollie's opposition fell into the ropes, it was like he really got punched, but he was pushed. But his body language was so out of control, you would think it was a punch, but it was a push. And from the angle Tony Weeks was in the ring behind Rollie, he couldn't see that it wasn't a punch. It was a push. So he is, in my eyes, 100% exonerated, because he, in fact, saw what he saw, but he didn't see the punch. He saw the arm release, but he didn't see how the hand impacted the body. He didn't see it was a punch. He thought it was an actual punch. So then after he reeled like that, and Rollie came back at him, he didn't want any more punishment, because he thought that first heavy reaction was a punch, but it was a push. So therefore, the world is calling for his head, but he deserves none of it. None of it. None of it. None of it at all. So that is one situation we're looking at. Now, post-fight, Rollie said, hey, this guy's got a lot of power. He dropped me. He can hit, which he could actually hit. And right before the stoppage mark, he had landed his best punch on Rollie, and Rollie stood up and said, oh, I remember this from when I got knocked down in the second round.
Yeah.
But it was stopped.
Well, yeah, it was stopped in the night. So I want to clarify some details of this fight for those of you that are listening, in case you didn't watch the fight. By now, you probably have seen clips of it and heard the scuttlebutt about this fight, as Harold mentioned. This fight. So basically, this fight took place in Las Vegas, right? Rollie Romeo secured a 9th round TKO against top contender Ismael Barrosa, despite being behind on all 3 scorecards going into the 9th round. Romero claimed the vacant WBA super lightweight world title on Saturday, and that was live on Showtime pay-per-view. And yeah, man, it was at the Cosmopolitan Hotel in Vegas. And it was a PBC event, Premier Boxing Champions event. And, basically what we really want to underscore here is that, Rollie was down. He was down significantly. He overcame that 3rd round knockdown, which if you didn't see the fight, he was knocked down in the 3rd round. And he managed to defeat this 40-year-old Barbosa, who's 24-4, with 2 draws, 22 wins coming by KO, which I mentioned at the top of the program, in a surprise outcome during this event. No one really thought that this guy, 40-year-old Barbosa, was going to drop Rollie, number one, let alone be ahead on all the scorecards going into the night, all of them, all 3, y'all, going into the 9th round. And so, Harold mentioned that Tony Weeks, who is a consummate professional, I'm not going to dispute that. I'm not going to, put his character on the table. It's not about his character. What the question is did he make the incorrect call? And as Harold mentioned, Harold felt that the call was made because there was a push, but Tony Weeks was in the wrong position. He saw the punch. He saw it as a punch, and he stopped the bout predicated on that fact. And if that's the case, then that has to be, number one, rolled back. And number two, the decision has to be overturned, because that's, an error, a gross error a major error in this young man's 40-year, he's 40 years old. In his professional career, he should have the opportunity to have won that fight if in fact that's what the outcome was going to be. And he had a knockdown in the third round, and there was a mistake made by the referee. Mistake. Honest mistake, not honest mistake. I'm not having that conversation yet. But the thing is that
I am honest. We're both officials. I judge ringside. Mark, you run inside, outside, all over the ring.
Yeah.
We know that if you're out of position, I do high school football and basketball and all that too. If I'm out of position, I can't see that receiver slap that hand away. I can't see if I'm out of position. I can't see somebody holding, the offensive lineman holding, if I'm out of position. That's just the way it is. That's why there's other people on the other side of the ball. There's an umpire and the white hat. Everybody's watching a certain area, period. And that's where these things can be rectified.
Yeah.
In boxing, there's only one person. And replay is not a big thing right now. So whatever situation he happens to be in at the time, and he's moving properly, you just can't see everything all the time.
No, I get that.
I 100% do not see any kind of disparity in his call at all. He simply was out of position, not purposely. It just happens they're moving around. He's moving too.
Yeah, but okay. So I get that. So let's look at it from a different vantage point, because you've got the official's hat on, right? And the official, like, the one thing about being an official is no matter what you do, you're always wrong. No matter what you do, somebody's going to always not be happy with what you say or what you do. That's just, when you're scoring a bout, you got a million people scoring that bout differently. You're looking with your eyes and you're scoring it. When you're in the ring, I mean, when you're, as a referee, you should be hugging the hip of the fighter, maintaining your position, maintaining the view of what is happening, particularly when things are going south and you're starting to put yourself in the fight's getting into the corner. It's really critical that you hug the hip of, the aggressive fighter. It's really important that you do that because, that keeps you in position. That's an issue about, and I'm not sure if they're going to suspend him. I'm not sure what the sanctioning commission will actually do about that, or the state athletic commission in which the fight took place, because both of them will have a say in that. But I do think that there's an issue here. There's an issue. This man lost his wife coming to the U.S. to fight. He comes
not this time. This happened 3 or 4 fights ago, but yes, it did in fact happen. Yeah, not today.
Yeah, but the guy's here.
Yes,
he's doing his thing. He's fighting for his life in the ring, and he's beating a major contender all the way into the 9th round. There's an error in the call by the referee. This is where the State Athletic Commission comes into play and looks at that and says, whoa, whoa, whoa. This is not, we're going to review the film. We're going to look at this. We're going to have a hearing on this, and then we're going to either overturn it and mandate that this fight takes place once again, which is what I would do, which is what I would suggest they do. And here's the story of all of this, Harold. Rollie is trying to make a major comeback so he can get, next level fights, right? And he's obviously wanting to climb up the division, the 140-pound division, so he can get another shot, right? With Haney. With Tank Davis, pardon me. But, my point is, like, there's a lot of money. There's a lot at stake here. and specifically for Rollie. And it was not a good performance for Rollie. And I think the fans, this hurts Rollie more than it hurts Barbosa. And from the standpoint that Rollie is a marquee name, and he's trying to become more notable, and he's trying to become more legitimate after that last knockdown in Madison Square Garden against Tank Davis. So I think that they should run this thing back right away so that Rollie can do his work. And, if in fact he's got it in him to beat this kid, this 40-year-old incredible boxer out of Venezuela who really, was doing amazing. So I don't know, Harold.
Well, Rollie was looking kind of tentative to me
Yeah.
in my mind. And maybe he hadn't rounded his mind out of the situation with the two previous knockdowns, one in sparring, one in the fight. And as you said, they should run it right back. Now, the best thing that can be done at this point is to have an immediate rematch. So Barbosa, if I say it correctly, can get another good payday.
Yeah.
Opportunity to fight for it again.
Yeah.
And go forward like that. That would be the best thing to do in his situation, because as we know, Mark, this business is beautiful and stinks at the same time.
Yeah.
And in this business, they're not going to overturn that. They're going to call immediate rematch, but they're not going to overturn it. Now, the rub is how quick they will get that rematch going. Now, as you say, this is a business and you got money involved. And I have the very last thing we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about why that is what it is and what the speculation is. But he wants to see if he can actually get a hold of Ryan Garcia. Well, because they're both of their skills are not I won't say not, are at a certain level. I'm not always going to be negative. They're at a certain level, which will make a good fight between the two.
Oh, absolutely. And Harold, for those of you that are tuning in, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being with us. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, we really appreciate you being with us. And if you are listening to us and you have not checked out the YouTube, please go to YouTube, subscribe, smash that notifications button so that you know that we are going live and we're on. We're trying to build up our YouTube. We're definitely on the right track. We're building a library of all these amazing podcasts, and we want you to be a part of it. We want you to come on and if you are listening in, you can also be part of the action. Add your live comments. We'll reply. We'll put them up on the screen. All of that good stuff. And man, we're delighted that you're with us. Do not, please, do not forget to join us on the other social media platforms as well. We are, obviously here on YouTube. You can find us on Instagram at The Boxing Breakdown. You can follow us on Facebook as well. We're there on Facebook at The Boxing Breakdown. And you can also watch the broadcast on Facebook. So if that's your favorite platform, check it out there. You can also find us on LinkedIn. I got The Boxing Breakdown hooked up on LinkedIn there, and of course on Twitter as well, which we really don't do too much with. But hey, you got to keep that handle ready, okay? And again, like us on Apple Podcasts. Don't forget, you can find us on Spotify. You can get us on iHeartRadio. You can get us wherever you get your podcasts, okay? So thanks a lot, man. Thank you for being with us. And then, Harold, let's get back to the program.
Yes.
Yeah, man. So, Harold, I think we kind of, is there anything else you wanted to talk about the Romero and Barbosa fight before we move on?
Yeah, in closing, just a quick closing, just to kind of, if they mandate it, that would be great for him. My biggest fear is he'll go back to Venezuela and he'll sit there and he'll wait for that call. it may or may not happen because boxing can mandate anything and it won't happen or it
Yeah.
will happen. So I don't know either way. I just don't want him to be in a situation where some promoter calls him and says, I need you to come fight, my up and coming guy. Whereas he
Right.
just fought for the title. He deserves his opportunity to fight for the title. He was number one contender for a long time. He
Yeah.
has the record, and he didn't have opportunity to necessarily, go through all the way through with it. And the ridicule that he went through because of his, the way he looked, but he cracked Romero, and he cracked
Wow.
him again right before he was stopped. And
Wow.
once again, I bear no ill will toward the referee at all. Period.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that, Harold. And, I'm not, like I said in the beginning, I'm definitely not questioning Tony Weeks and his position. I could tell you if it was my fighter, okay, I would be livid, man. I would have flipped my lid. Okay, I would have flipped my lid. Probably would have jumped in the. I don't know what I would have done, but I would have flipped my freaking lid.
Uh-oh.
Okay, yeah, man. I'll be right. I'll tell Tony Weeks, man. What are you doing, dude? What did you just do? I mean, I'm talking about from the standpoint of having everything to lose. You got a record of 24-4 with 2 draws. You're on the biggest stage. You are getting ready to crack through, to break through to the upper echelon. You beat Rollie. You're going to get some big fights, man. They're going to bring you, they're going to pull you along, and you are going to be fighting Tank. You're going to be fighting everybody they can put you in front of, right? So that these, anyway, you know how the boxing, you know how this business goes. But my point is that all got completely stopped. The train screeched to a halt. A car fell in front of the train, and the train just bam, crash, stop. All aboard, please get off. That's what happened. Yeah, man. That's unfortunate. So we beat this dead horse. All right, let's move on. And I love horses, by the way. Do not ever beat a horse, especially if it's dead. Okay, let's move on. Let's get into the Devin Haney and Vasily Lomachenko fight it's literally coming up, you guys. It is coming up this weekend.
Yes. And I've done some research and heard some other talk and seen some other things and went back and looked, and I see some good stuff that I want to pass on. Ooh.
Talk
Loma.
to me. Come on, let's go. We are waiting. All of us are waiting with bated breath to hear what you have to say.
Okay, you know how you love Loma because he had the ballet training and his footwork is impeccable, and you yourself are aficionado in the ballet discipline, and you know what you see. However, he
I knew there was going to be a however, but go ahead.
does get out of position.
However.
He does get out of position. He does bring his feet together. He is off balance at times. He truly is. He's gotten this huge pass of this perfect footwork, but he really doesn't have it all the time. And it's not consistent. You look at his very last fight, there's plenty of times, Mark, he's standing straight up, squared up, feet together, just totally out of this aura of his perfect footwork. Number one. Number two, if you take a certain angles away from him, he can't be effective. Now, what makes him effective is he's able to overcome that when you take it away from him. But once you figure out how to take it away from him, you can be effective. But if you don't, that is where his skill set comes in. Now, his very first fight when he lost, and we talked about, welcome to the big leagues, whatever, he wasn't given those angles. He couldn't get those angles on that professional, the person he fought, his first fight. I can't pronounce his name. He couldn't find those angles, and he lost on points. Since then, he was able to find the angles, and be successful. His loss to Telefim Lopez was exactly the same kind of thing. Those angles were taken away. Now, all the other fights, he's able to get all those angles. I just noticed from some stuff I was reading and hearing from trainers and reading, and then going back and look at the film myself, he was kind of tied at the ankles a couple times, several times, and was out of position. So that is kind of in the face of what he's supposed to be doing perfectly.
Hey, yeah, I mean, that was a lot. So the only thing I'm going to say is, Lomachenko. Well, I mean, I could say a lot of things about this fight. I think where you're right is I think this is going to be a very technical fight. I really do. I don't think either one of these gentlemen are going to go into that ring absent high level of technique. So from the standpoint of, if you are if you're a lover of boxing and you're a lover of technique and you're a lover of, you're gonna see things in this fight that you will very rarely ever see technically if you are a scientist of the sport. And that being said, both sides are brilliant technically. I think the question becomes whose, styles make fights, right? So if styles make fights, the question is, does Devin Haney's style and skill set withhold or are they able to withstand a Vasily Lomachenko's skill sets and technique? And it's a very valid question because if, Harold, we watch boxing constantly. I'm training fighters constantly. I'm working with fighters and I have for over 35 years. Okay. What I can say to you is that it's hard to call this one because it is going to be who shows up the best. And I mean, you can say we all have our hero. We all have our favorite fighter. But you can say, oh, he's going to do this and he's going to do that. And he's going to, he has this skill. But at the end of the day, it's who brings it into the ring on that night. And neither one of us knows what kind of sleep the man is going to get the night before. And neither one of us knows what obstacles they're going to face from now till the fight. Is there going to be an injury in it? Is there going to be, there's so many factors, people, that are going into this fight that make this such a compelling fight. Not unlike the, the Tank Davis Ryan Garcia fight, because people had a pretty good idea of how that fight was going to go, but the sleeper or the question mark was whether or not Ryan Garcia's hook was going to find a home. And whether or not he was going to be able to keep the proper distance that everybody in the world knew what Ryan Garcia needed to do, except for Ryan Garcia. He's the only one that didn't know that night what to do. And the same is true here. The same is true here. Who knows what to do on that night? And, to your point, Devin Haney is an outstanding athlete. He does look very, very good. I've been peeking him and most recently I'm watching what he's doing. His punches are in the box. They're nice and sharp and tight. They're very short punches. He seems like he's got very, very good, rhythm and speed on his punches. I like what I'm seeing. I really do. And and on the other side, a criticism to Vasily Lomachenko from what I've seen is that he's wide, he's sloppy. The punches are very, very, it looks like he's trying to chop a tree down. And I'm not sure if that's not part of the onslaught to kind of get Devin Haney caught up in, that's what they're going to expect. And then he comes a different way. Cause that's what some of these guys, that's, you gotta watch Lomachenko. They know what they're doing, man. They know every trick in the book. So do not sleep on that team.
Now, on the other side, as far as Haney's concerned, I must say, Haney has a sharp jab, and he's going to have to, use the 1-2. He just can't use the jab and keep him away. He's going to have to actually drop that 1-2 on him and follow up that jab with something meaningful on a regular basis. And that's what we have to see. And we talked about before the clinching, what referee's going to be in there. We don't know how that's going to work, but he absolutely is going to have to use that jab and something behind it on a regular basis for Lomachenko. So I'm not disparaging Lomachenko at all. I'm just saying I saw something that I didn't see before because I took it for granted. As far as Haney's concerned, like we talked about earlier in our past podcast, the inside work he doesn't necessarily like to do, and he'll push you off with his forearm and reset you. And if the referee allows that, he allows that. If the referee allows him to fight on the inside, he's going to allow it. We just don't know. Those are the factors you're talking about. Like you said, the sleep or the eating or the kids or whatever could happen could change the mindset. But as far as skill set, you're absolutely right. It's going to be a skillful situation. I'm just wanting to point out that the footwork is not necessarily sublime because he has had errors in it, but he was never necessarily affected by those. Haney has great footwork. He can move too, but he has his own situations where he does things that could be fall for Lomachenko to score. So just like you said, it can go either way. I just wanted to point that out because we all took it for granted that he had the impeccable footwork, and sometimes he does square up, and it's kind of uncharacteristic of the lore of Lomachenko.
Yeah, no, and I mean, you're right. He does square up, and I mean, he's his style is very unique. It'll go down in the history of the sport as one of the most interesting styles. His footwork is impeccable as a dancer, as a choreographer, director, of professional dancers, and particularly in the world of ballet. What I will tell you is that, everybody talks about how Lomachenko studied ballet and how he studied dance. I think what it should be noted is that Lomachenko may have studied ballet. He may have studied different styles of dance, but where he was most notably participant of is character dance. So he was with a character dance company and character dance school, and the character dance is mostly ethnic dances, from the Ukraine. So yes, he did study ballet. Most likely, I don't know to the extent of his ballet training, but what I do know is that he definitely understands angles, rhythm, timing. He understands all those things in a much deeper way. I think one has to study ballet perpetually. So if you want to really become amazing physically as a fighter, or you want your fighter to become amazing physically, then you need to study ballet, and you need to do it in a way that is part of your training modality, part of your training camp, so that your fighter can develop their eye-hand coordination, their rhythm, the neuromuscular body connections, and the different elements that ballet can really. I mean, I could do a whole show on the benefits of ballet training and what happens to your brain in the muscle memory and the actual repetition of ballet study, ballet training as it relates to boxing. And so, if Vasily Lomachenko is engaging in that kind of training, he will have an advantage. He just will. And the advantage may be nullified by Haney's youth and Haney's skill sets as well, because Haney also has his pedigree and his abilities as a fighter are, phenomenal. I mean, he's just one of the best fighters in the world today. So, both of them have that ability to come away with the win on that night. And it's just that compelling of a fight. When you understand that, you really, this fight is almost more interesting than the last fight. Well, it's easy to say that since we've already gone through the last fight. But
True.
I mean, it's going to be an amazing fight. It is at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, right?
Floyd's house.
Huh?
Floyd's house.
Floyd's house. Oh yeah, yep. And Devin Haney's chomping at the bit, saying he wants to show how much higher of a level he is in relationship to Vasily Lomachenko, which if he's successful in that, he will have beaten one of the best fighters in the world at that weight class. So, I mean, he's a smaller guy, meaning Vasily Lomachenko is by stature a smaller guy than Devin Haney. I also have been listening and hearing a little bit about the fact that there is a clause in the contract that calls for the weigh-in to occur 1 day prior to the fight, which means that if that clause is in fact in the contract, shame on the Lomachenko crew for not reading that and not knowing that that was there, because that could change the dynamic of this fight tremendously, in that Devin Haney can come in really, really large. I mean, really big. And that would be a miscalculation even before the fight occurs. Thoughts about that, Harold?
I didn't know about that clause. I'm sure it's positioned so it could be advantageous for whoever set it up.
Yeah.
Weight drain and all that kind of thing. When you get to, in my opinion, when you get to this kind of skill set, it doesn't matter. When Floyd fought Pacquiao, one was left-handed, one was right-handed, so it's going to be a bunch of headbutts. No, their skill set is so high, that's not even an issue. It never even happened because they just have such a high skill set. So what you have here is the skill set is going to outweigh any kind of weight, heaviness, any of that. It's so far above the physicalness of the fight. It's very cerebral, as you said, Mark. We got to see who's going to do what. It's not a fight that's going to be knocked down, you get up, knocked down, I knock you down, you get up. That's not going to be the mandate for this fight. It's going to be, as you said, a technical fight. So those things don't matter to me. And I just don't really pay that much attention to them. They're part of boxing. They're part of the run-up.
Well, I would just I know that you're not making much of that weight clause, but if you when we get off the podcast, I'm sure you're going to think a little bit about that. And what I'm going to tell you, what I'm going to tell you is that is a huge advantage for the Haney team. And if it's in that contract and they are going to weigh in the day before, leave it up to, the Nevada State Athletic Commission or whatever, these guys, man, if they can pull that off, I mean, it's going to be a classic. A big man is always going to beat a small man. It's just that simple. That's why boxing is done with weight classes. For those of you that don't know, boxing is done with weight classes because weight makes all the difference. You have two guys who are equally skilled. The guy who has the weight size advantage is going to, the punches aren't going to do that much damage. I mean, that's pretty basic. That's boxing 101. I mean, small guy coming up, big guy coming down, that's a problem.
I can't dispute your pedigree in the sport. From what I see out here on this side of it, it is a situation where you have a bigger person and you have a smaller person. However, it's about who can score. And if Devin Haney was a bully and he fought on the inside and he looked to take you out, then I could appreciate the weight thing. I can't appreciate it because yes, he'll be bigger, but he's not going to necessarily use that in a way to take advantage from what I see. And I just think Lomachenko can handle any kind of extra weight or this or that or the other, because it's not about, the force, the brute force. But
Yeah.
I can and will take education on that. If I've been ignoring it because I think it's not valid in this situation. I'm open to hearing why it is, but as I stand right now, I don't see much validity in it at all.
Well, this weekend we're going to chop it up, because on Sunday when we get back on the air, we're gonna have a lot to talk about, and we're gonna see if that weight became a major issue for Lomachenko, and I think it's going to be an issue. If there's any issue with this fight, it's going to be a weight issue. I think, yeah, Vasily Lomachenko at one point back in 2013 was one of the most feared fighters in boxing, and there are thousands of videos on his impeccable skills and techniques that he brought into the world of boxing that a lot of fighters were not even doing. And I remember how much, how many people were hot for, Vasily Lomachenko. So fast forward 2023, the aging fighter in Vasily Lomachenko is, it's interesting to see. I mean, look, Juan Manuel Marquez and Manny Pacquiao. I mean, I think Marquez was 35 when they fought, when he beat Manny Pacquiao. So, it's not like he's old. He's not old. He's 35. Man, I wish I was 35. For God's sakes, man. This country has such a thing over age, man. It's like anybody who's over the age of 30 is freaking over the hill, bro. Listen, age is not that big of a deal. You just saw Rollie get his butt whooped for 9 rounds by a 40-year-old guy. I mean,
he was up on the scorecards.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, an aging 50-year-old Bernard Hopkins. Come on, man. There are plenty of fighters. You just got to have the goods. If you don't have the goods, you don't have the goods. It's just that simple. You can be 40 years old and you can take out some of these guys. Some of these guys, that are on the highest level, man, some of them have the most basic errors in their technique that you're like, just give me the money. I'll go fight that guy. He's not that good. Until you get in the ring with him. Bam. Ooh, I thought he wasn't that good. Yeah, but anyway, so Harold, I think we beat this one too. We got this one. We got 2 horses down in the bucket right now.
Man, we got the ASAPA on us now. You keep talking about animals and beating them.
Nah, man, I told you, I love horses. Y'all don't know this, but I mean, those of you listening in, you guys don't know. I can ride some horse. No, serious. Like I can jump 4-foot fences with horses, man. I am an avid equestrian rider. I can do English and I can do Western. Western's my favorite, man. I think I'm a cowboy. I love being a cowboy, man. Seriously.
I got a few skills myself. I love when they run. The jumping, I have to go in the air with them, as you know how to ride. But
yeah,
I like that power that they have also. But we digress.
Yeah, man. Let's jump on into this Teofimo Lopez versus Josh Taylor.
Lopez is daring to be great. He's the only one out here trying to go right to the fire and put it out. Everybody else is not negatively, but everybody else is positioning themselves for good paydays, decent fights, media type situations. They all are, and it's great. It's just, that's what boxing is. It's a whole entity unto itself. But he is going to the fire. He's definitely running right to it. I mean, so I have to give him the love because he's going to go there, and if he wins or when he wins, however you want to term it, he should be at the top of the mountain because he went and took it from somebody who has it, who can keep it, who has the reputation of keeping it, who is a skilled fighter, and he's going into his backyard, or not his backyard, but he's going into a situation where he's the underdog and he has to prove it. And the scuttlebutt with his father and then what he said about this and that, and then his personal life, he is a lot of different things going on. And for him to do this is just spectacular to me. So I can do nothing but, shout out to him because he's doing what he needs to do to make himself a popular and revered fighter at 140.
Yeah, man. I mean, he definitely, just a little bit of background on this fight. Okay. So Josh Taylor, consummate skilled fighter, very, very good. Definitely not a walkover. He's fighting Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo Lopez has a lot to prove. He's had some mediocre performances. He's getting a lot of backlash from a lot of people about a lot of things. And so, in the traditional Lopez family, they know how to get people to watch. They know how to get people to tune in, whether they want you to win or lose. You're going to tune into that fight. That fight is taking place, by the way, folks. Josh Taylor versus Teofimo Lopez, ESPN Plus, June 10th, 10 p.m. Okay? I'll say it again. ESPN Plus, June 10th at 10 p.m.
10 p.m.
Yeah. You're not going to want to miss that. It's also on ESPN Deportes and ESPN Plus. Well, I already said that, but ESPN Deportes at 10 p.m. as well. 7 p.m. Pacific time. So wherever you're tuning in, man, you got to get that fight, bro, because it's going to be a good one. It's taking place in Madison Square Garden here, right up here in the Big Apple. So it's the promoter is Top Rank Incorporated, and yeah, man, this is going to be an interesting fight. There's a lot on the line for Teofimo Lopez. He's already said that he's not going back. I think you want to comment on that? Did you hear about that?
He's not going back at 35?
Yeah, he's definitely not going back to 35.
Well, what did he say?
Well,
Pray tell.
I don't let me not say that. I'm gonna table that for a minute, okay? What I was about to say. I'm gonna table that because I'm not sure if that's public knowledge yet, so I'm gonna table that. Okay. But it's going to be a super fight, man, on both sides of the pond.
Yes.
Junior welterweight king Josh Taylor stepping up against the young dynamic Teofimo Lopez. Bob Arum says he can't wait for these two supreme athletes to step into the ring at Madison Square Garden, that it's going to be a special night. Every night in boxing is going to be special when Top Rank puts it on. We know that. But Taylor's 19-0 with 13 big wins coming by way of KO, the Tartan Tornado.
Yes, he is.
The former undisputed junior welterweight champion, having collected all 4 major titles in a remarkable 4-round run that included wins over Ivan Baranchak. And let me listen, Baranchak can fight. Joke. He's no joke, man. He was actually in Teofimo's camp. He's been in Teofimo Lopez's camp. He's got wins over Regis Prograis and Josh Ramirez as well. Jose Ramirez as well. Yeah, man, he debuted in the paid ranks back in 2015, and he was a Commonwealth champion during his second year. Yeah, he became a Commonwealth champion in his second year, and he defeated fellow unbeaten prospect Ohar Davis in 7th round TKO, the 32-year-old, then beat former world champion Miguel Vasquez and Victor Postal before entering the World Boxing Super Series in 2018. Taylor stopped them, then undefeated contender Ryan Martin via the TKO before capturing his first world title with a decision victory over Baranchak, which was, as I said, it was an amazing fight.
It was.
Yeah, his win over Regis Prograis and Ramirez left no doubt as the world supreme 140-pound practitioner. Taylor returned more than 1 year after his last performance, a competitive split decision nod over Jack Cattrall. So, Lopez is 18-1, 13 big wins coming by way of KO. He's the former unified and lineal lightweight champion of the world. And in December of 2019, he captured the IBF title with an explosive second-round win, knockout win. I mean, it was, head gets snapped back all the way back, meaning Richard Comey's head gets snapped back. The following October, he basically beat pound for pound King Vasily Lomachenko to win the WBA, WBO, and the WBC franchise title. 13 months later, he lost the belts via knocking split decision to... actually, it was a shocking split decision victory by George Kambosos, who at the time was 25 years old. So, Teofimo's been through a lot. The only thing I could say is that this is going to be an outstanding fight. It really is. Both men have lots to prove. I mean, lots to prove, and they want to get themselves back where they need to be for an opportunity to win, to win all the belts again. And Teofimo is, got a lot of questions. He's asking himself about whether or not he thinks he should still be doing this. And those questions are going to be answered when they jump on in the ring.
Yes, we know Josh was thinking about flirting with, rather, coming up to 140 welterweight.
Yeah.
That would have been fun, but his ego caused him to stay down there and fight Cantrell again, if I say his name correctly, because of the controversy that he really lost, but he was giving it to him because he was the champion.
Right.
And he lost 3 of the belts because of that, but he wanted to get his not get back, but he wanted to kind of close out the book on Cantrell as Floyd did with Madonna.
Right.
But he still carried his cachet. He still has this opportunity to defend this belt, and then he can go back to unification. Maybe he can unify later if, in fact, he wins. Yeah. So, but I remember when Lopez's father said when they beat Lomachenko, I told everybody, and that is the ringing thing in my mind whenever I think about Lopez and Loma, how the father, his reaction after the fight was as I said previously. So
yeah, no, the one thing that you can count on is that Teofimo Sr. Is always going to be in his son's corner. So there's nobody going to cheer bigger for Teofimo Lopez Jr. than Teofimo Lopez Sr. That is a fact. And, he knows his son. And he knows what his son is capable of. And, the interesting thing is, does Teofimo Lopez Jr. know what he's capable of? That was the question that was picked up by a soundbite in his last performance, where he asked his team whether or not, do I still have it? And that reverberated around the boxing community. And of course, everybody picked up that one soundbite and ran with it but at the end of the day, Teofimo Lopez, he knows who he is and he knows what he can do. And once he puts his mind to it, so he's got a big test in front of him. This is a big test for both of the fighters. And it's going to be really, really amazing. Again, we are being treated, boxing fans. Do not forget the Boxing Breakdown fans. You guys are getting treated to some really great boxing coming up. Really unprecedented coming out of COVID. I mean, it's been a struggle to get out of COVID, but here we are. And now these fights are being made. And I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to know that Taylor versus Teofimo Lopez is going to happen on June 10th. It's just another great, great fight. You've got the Devin Haney and Lomachenko fight on May 20th, if you didn't pick that up earlier on the podcast. It is happening on May 20th, and there's a lot of really good boxing going on. So the one last thing I wanted to say before we switch our hot topics here is I just wanted to say to you that what do you think? I mean, who do you think out of Devin Haney and Vasily Lomachenko, which one of the boxers do you think has faced the most formidable opposition in the last 5 or 6 fights? Who? Which one of them do you think has had better opposition? So without having you to have to open up and research all this, I want to share this with the listeners because I want you guys to tell us too. Who do you think's faced the tougher opposition? And do you think that tougher opposition that they've faced will either hurt them or help them? So, for example, Teofimo Lopez back in 2019 fought Anthony Croella, and he KO'd him. And then he got Luke Campbell next, and he UD'd him. Followed by Teofimo Lopez's loss. He lost to Teofimo Lopez. And then he TKO'd Masayoshi Nakatani, who Teofimo Lopez was not able to achieve in his fight. And then he faced Richard Comey, and he got a unanimous decision. Now, Teofimo Lopez stopped Richard Comey in a most violent way. All right. And then you've got Jermaine Ortiz, Vasily Lomachenko, UD'd him most recently in October, the end of October of 2022. Excuse me, frog in my throat. So then you go over to Devin Haney, Harold, and you've got back in 2019, Alfredo Santiago, unanimous decision. Devin Haney took Uros Gamboa, a unanimous decision, followed by Jorge Linares, unanimous decision. And then he fought Joseph Diaz, and he got a unanimous decision, win. George Kambosos, unanimous decision, win. And guess what? Teofimo lost to George Kambosos. And then he fought George Kambosos again in Australia, and he UD'd him again. So who do you think has had the most formidable opposition, and do you think that will help him or hinder him? Meaning either one of the fighters, because I just laid it all out for you. So do tell. Post your comments here on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and let us know what you think, whether or not you think.
We want to know.
Yeah, we really do. And so Harold, with that being said, let's switch over to this WBA loves Tank Davis. Tell me about that, Harold.
But once again, I want to shout out to the WBA. I went to the convention. It was beautiful. It was well done. A lot of people were there.
Where was it?
I enjoyed it. It was in Tampa, Florida.
Oh.
And it was very nice. I enjoyed it. Now, the reason I say the WBA loves Tank, and this goes back to Rollie.
Yeah.
Rollie's going to keep that belt, but Tank has opportunity to win that belt from Rollie.
Right.
That is a legitimate belt. The one he has is legitimate, of course, but this one is the top of the legitimate ranking for the WBA. And I'm thinking that they are happy because, number one, the sanctioning fees will be more prevalent. The exposure the WBA will get will be greater. Tank doesn't have any kind of legal issues other than this thing he has to deal with. And he'll get not a real belt, but he'll get another belt that will, it's not the regular belt. It's the top belt. And they really don't necessarily believe in belts. They believe in who is the popular fighter and
Right.
butts in the seats and all that. But this will add to that. So they like him, and they are going to be sure that he has an opportunity to get this belt. So all the other things we were talking about earlier about, get the rematch and this and that, there's a great possibility that won't happen only because the WBA loves Tank, and they know Tank is going to be a great face for them. As far as we know right now, he legitimately won that belt, the fight. He is the champion. No matter what we say, how we feel it, he's the champion, and they're going to posture him in a position where he can rematch Tank. If he takes it from Tank, that's great. But
Right.
Tank's going to get an opportunity to win that belt. And I think the WBA is happy with how it came out. I mean, not happy, but they know that the possibilities are great for one of their champions to pick up this belt and to really solidify himself as the full champion in that division in their organization.
Right. Yeah, man. No, I mean, everybody's gunning for Tank right now. I mean, some people have said he's the face of boxing. I heard Mike Tyson come out and said, dude, you ain't the face of boxing. Come on, bro. What are you talking about, the face of boxing? You're a good boxer. So, I mean, there's more to come from Tank Davis for sure. I can see why the WBA would want Tank Davis fighting on that banner. I get it. And, I mean, there's a lot down the road for Tank Davis.
Rollie is a placeholder.
Yeah, exactly. And like a lot of these guys, as these guys start flushing themselves out, winner, loser, winner, loser, winner, loser, you're going to be narrowing this thing down. A lot of people have said that Tank Davis is the one that's going to be left standing. So we're going to find out because Teofimo Lopez has got Josh Taylor. Vasily Lomachenko's got Devin Haney, and that's gonna bump off two of them right there. We already bumped off Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia's out of the picture, so it is the new paradigm of boxing is showing up. It's just a matter of time. I mean, this fight on June 10th is going to tell us a lot. And if Teofimo wins. And he wins in like amazing, no matter how he wins. But if he wins in impressive style with a knockout, big things down the road for Teofimo Lopez for sure. And likewise for Josh Taylor. If they slide into a unanimous decision, either one of them are going to kind of be it's so interesting, man. It's so interesting to even say that. But if either one of them wins by unanimous decision, they will be on the long road to win.
Josh has the opportunity to fight in his home country and bring the world to him.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. And if he does win, he'll be in a situation where whoever comes to him should be beatable for him.
Yeah.
And then he can come back to America and fight again and continue to hold it as long as he can hold it.
Yeah.
Whereas if Lopez wins, he is the king. We are going to hear some narratives out of him and his father that is just going to be scathingly entertaining.
Yeah.
And that is, believe it or not, I'm kind of looking forward to the brashness that he's going to display with that. But the fight has to happen, Mark, as you said.
Yeah, no doubt. The fight has to happen. And these are big fights coming up. I'm so excited, Harold. I am so looking forward to what's coming up down the road. And, for those of you tuning in on YouTube, thank you for being with us. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, thank you. Don't forget to like us on social media, the platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all those, at The Boxing Breakdown. You can find us, man. Please join us. Thank you for being with us.
Yes.
We hope you've enjoyed the podcast tonight.
Love it.
And we will see you guys on the next episode of The Boxing Breakdown. Peace and love, man. Thank you, Harold.
Thank you.
Fight fans, join host Mark Roxy and special guests as they break down all aspects of the boxing world, including news, business, management, training, promotions, fan reactions, upcoming events, matchups, future boxing stars, title fights, state of the boxing world, and all the stuff you don't see when you watch boxing. This podcast is released each week on Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Live streamed on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook Live. It's the Boxing Breakdown, hosted by Mark Roxy.